Hi everyone, I'm Judith Hope, an Akashic Channel, Third Eye Activator, and Interdimensional Communicator. This channel is for everything you need to know about current galactic events, starseed and third eye activations, galactic history, and 5D consciousness. So, if you want to learn about all these topics and how to activate your third eye, hit that subscribe button. So, today I'm going to tell you everything you need to know and more about the Milky Way galaxy's first ever humans, the Lyrans, and their more feminine counterparts, the Vegans. So, because these were the first ever humans, their DNA was passed down to us and is our current human genetics here on planet Earth. So, you might have heard of many other star races, such as those from Sirius and the Pleiades. The Lyrans actually not only seeded our DNA, but they actually seeded the ancestors of both those star people groups from Sirius and the Pleiades, as well as countless other star systems. The Lyra star system was actually chosen by the co-creators of humankind, aka the Elohim, to be the home of the first ever human beings here in the Milky Way galaxy. This was mainly due to the favorable conditions for human and animal life on the Lyran planets. There were 14 planets in total. So, in order to create life, the higher level light beings were invited into the Milky Way galaxy by these Elohims, also known as co creators, to help create human life in physical form using a 12-strand DNA template, known as the Adamic template. So, think about that, the fact that the original humans had 12 strands of DNA, while us current humans, we only have 2 strands of DNA. Interesting because these beings that were invited into our galaxy to create humans are actually feline beings. Okay, so they came over here in etheric form, which means that they are not actually in cat form, right? They're not giant cats floating through space, but they're actually in spirit or etheric form, right? So they came through the Antares Stargate, which is an interesting portal because the thing about the Antares Stargate is that once you come into the Milky Way galaxy, you can't necessarily get out, right? And as far as I know, it's the only portal into the Milky Way galaxy, right? So that's how, like, my soul is from Andromeda. It came into the Milky Way galaxy through the Antares Stargate, and then many other, different souls and types of beings. Also, that's how they access the Milky Way galaxy if they're in another universe. But it's a one-way portal, so once you get in, you can't get out, right? So thank you so much to all the souls from the other universes that are here, that are helping with our descent into physicality, into the Milky Way galaxy, right? All the lessons we're learning, all the things that are happening. And we just appreciate you because when you'll be able to leave, we don't know, right? Because your departure time is currently not scheduled. Feline beings came over here and they actually started creating these feline beings first before they created any humans. So, like the type of like felines we would see on planet Earth, like regular cats and jaguars, cheetahs, panthers, things like that. But they actually created these humanoids that were part cat, part human. So basically, like they would look like a cat on the top, like have a giant like talking cat head, have like fur, but they would stand like as humans do, right, on 2 feet, where they had arms as well. Here are some art illustrations of what these beings may look like. Kind of terrifying to us, but the Lyran feline beings were very benevolent and a peaceful race, primarily focused on building out agricultural systems and a more simple way of life. So, as strange as it sounds, being a giant walking, talking cat, as a starseed with a long history of incarnations on Lyra, as a feline humanoid, I have been a lifelong fan of Hello Kitty and can often be found wearing these headphones and wearing a lot of leopard print to commemorate and honor my many incarnations on the Lyran star system. This is how I connect to my Lyran heritage, and I've been doing this for far before I spiritually awakened or learned about any of this galactic or alien stuff. Because we all remember and embrace our galactic heritage in different ways. So, for me, this is how I honored it, and it may look similar for others, or folks may honor their galactic heritage in a number of ways. For a lot of Lyran Starseeds, this can also mean having a pet cat, or just liking stuffed animal cats, or putting a cat sticker on their laptop or car. For me, I do have a Hello Kitty sticker on my car. For this video, I received this channeled message about Hello Kitty. When I asked the question, is Hello Kitty Lyran? I got this answer. She is not Lyran, but she remembers her home as a Lyran starseed and is the representation that we have on Earth that is fun and palpable to help Lyran starseeds remember who they are in a non-threatening way. This is part of the reason that she has been such a successful character. Many Lyran starseeds remember those lives fondly and connect to this cute cartoon version of themselves. So, developing these cat humanoids and later actual humans took millions of years of development, and they actually used ape like DNA from the Lyran planets and also DNA that they brought with them from their own universe to help develop human DNA. So, the conditions on the planet and the Lyran star systems were very favorable to human life, as I mentioned earlier, which is why the descent into physicality, aka that means souls going into physical bodies, such as these feline beings first and then shortly afterward becoming human, this is why the Lyran star system was chosen as the birthplace of humans. It's actually quite a small star system. Now, it's interesting because there were other aliens in our galaxy prior to the creation of humankind. The ancient Antari star people and the Arcturians, as well as the Andromedans in light form. So, for those of you who have souls of these origins, congrats, because you are one of the oldest souls in this galaxy. And yes, I will have later videos on these higher light beings, such as the Antares, the Arcturians, and the Andromedans, so stay tuned. So, how did we get from a feline humanoid to a being that actually resembles a human? Let's get back to talking about the actual humans, the Lyrans and the Vegans. So, let's talk about the Lyrans first, as the Lyrans are considered to be the original race of all humans in this galaxy. The Lyrans' official name was the White Nordic Lyran race, and they were made to be physical representations of the Omega Father God consciousness. They look similar to current humans of European descent, often called Caucasian or white people here in the US, which is where I'm based. Their hair, eye, and skin colors varied greatly based on their planet's position from the main star, aka their sun, and the type of stars they were closest to, which is pretty similar to white or Caucasian people today, which have a wide range of eye and hair colors and somewhat differing tones of skin. So let's keep in mind that the Lyrans were being developed within multiple solar systems in the Lyra star system. So this was happening on multiple planets, not just one. There were 14 planets that were in fact inhabited with human life. Okay, so think about how many humans there were on these 14 planets across the Lyra star system. It's a lot, the equivalent of 14 Earths, basically. So the Lyrans were all about the grind, right? Because we were the embodiment of the divine masculine, the Father God. So they were all about having a good work ethic and working hard, very similar to the baby boomer generation here in the US. The Lyran planets had a lot of natural resources, right? Because they were specifically chosen as the perfect place to develop the first ever humans. The Lyrans were really advanced in their agricultural systems, and they also completed a lot of physical labor. So, this is the part that can blow your mind as a human being on planet Earth. The Lyran civilization was thriving for 40 million years. They lived in peace and built civilizations that were far more advanced than anything on Earth. Asked the Akashic Records to show me what the Lyran civilizations looked like. They literally showed me that scene from the Hunger Games whenever they are on that train into this like big, beautiful city. I believe it's the capital. And yes, the capital was very corrupt. In that movie, it was a beautiful city, but it was very ugly on the inside. I don't think that that would necessarily apply to these Lyran cities, but the beauty and the magnificent you would see of the city as it's kind of in the countryside, but it has also very advanced technology. That is what the Lyran cities looked like. Because the Lyrans were so advanced with their agricultural systems, there are many Lyran starseeds here on planet Earth now, helping to make agricultural systems here on Earth more efficient, productive, and help the planet be able to feed its inhabitants without depleting its resources. So, the Lyran life expectancy was between 300 and 425 years on average. So, a typical Lyran would look like they were in their 20s for the first 100 to 150 years of life or so. They wouldn't get any wrinkles until about age 250, and then they were never really quite age as badly as we do on Earth because they're in a higher dimensional field anyway. So, as a starseed who spent a lot of time on Lyra, it was pretty devastating for me to start getting wrinkles at only age 31 or 32. I was used to being in bodies where you got at least 200 years or 250 years to look young, like have a baby face, like be in your prime in your 20s before you got any wrinkles. Now, let's talk about the second ever human race, the Blue Vegans. So, the second human race in our galaxy was the Blue Vegan race, which are considered to be the physical representation of the Mother God consciousness. The Blue Vegan race, as the name would suggest, had darker blue skin, and this race is known to be mentioned in Vedic texts and from whom the Hindu gods Vishnu and Krishna derived. So, if you've seen pictures of these gods, this is very similar to what the Vegan people looked like. It's important to note that the Vegans were developed in the Lyra star system as well. They were basically neighbors to the Lyrans and were around the Vega star. Excuse me, they were on the planets surrounding the Vega star. So, because the Vegans are the physical representation of the Mother God consciousness, the Vegans were much more focused on internal introspection than physical hard work. They were also a highly spiritual people and technologically advanced, and this group also played an important colonization role throughout the galaxy. I think it is very interesting that the Vegans are more spiritual and they are tied to Hinduism, and therefore the people of the country we now know as India, as well as a few other countries as well. And in India, it's interesting because astrology is much more prevalent and it's taken more seriously and considered more valid than in a lot of other countries on the societal level, right? So, like growing up here in the US, like astrology was not really taken seriously. It's definitely had more of a comeback and come into more popularity in the past like 5 years or so. But growing up, astrology was widely not believed, while in other countries such as India, astrologers are actually consulted and taken more seriously. So, also, Hinduism does teach reincarnation as part of the religion. My thoughts on this are that these spiritual concepts and tools, so things like astrology and reincarnation, have stayed within this culture because they are descendants of a more spiritually advanced group who understand spiritual concepts at a greater level. While the ancient Lyrans, who were very focused on hard work, physical labor, after being created in the Father God consciousness, have lost touch with a lot of these basic spiritual concepts. And unfortunately, the larger religion that descendants of the Lyrans follow, aka white people, Caucasian people, people of European descent, tend to be more focused on the God the Father consciousness and therefore have fallen victim to systems of patriarchy, but also fallen out of touch with spiritual concepts such as reincarnation, the chakra system, and astrology. For me, myself, I grew up within the Christian faith. While there are some wonderful teachings of Yeshua, also known as Jesus Christ, a lot of these core spiritual concepts, as well as third eye activation, are missing from the religion and the religious texts as they are denoted today. It's interesting because I've gotten questions from people asking me which star races are the most technologically advanced. And there are definitely some star races that are more advanced than others, but all of these star races are more technologically advanced than Earth humans. They all have spacecraft, so UFOs or UAPs, as we call them on Earth. Which the spacecrafts of the Pleiadians and unfortunately some of the lower frequency alien groups, the ones that do abductions, wink, wink, entertainment purposes only. Their spaceships do look like UFOs, but starships can look all kinds of ways, right? We've seen that in sci fi, movies and TV shows and books. All ETs also have advanced computer systems, communication systems, weapon and defense systems, and the majority of them are more spiritually advanced than us, too. So they all have a greater advancement in both technology and spirituality. So, back to the vegans. Vegans also have lifespans much longer than the average Earth human, much like the Lyrans. They live for hundreds of years, sometimes up to 1,000 years or so. This is pretty rare. Most live up to the 500-year mark or so, but there are some that live up to 1,000 years. Vegans do age at a similar rate to the Lyrans. They also have a longer lifespan and therefore more time to look and feel young and have again, that baby face for a much longer time than the humans here on Earth. Human lifespans on Earth are just in general much shorter than pretty much any of the other humans and other star systems because of the harsh conditions on the planet, the density of the planet, and the soul amnesia that we all undergo once we get here, or should I say, are born in human form. So, you might be wondering, what is soul amnesia? Soul amnesia is what happens when a soul enters a physical human body here on Earth. The soul begins the process of not remembering who they really are, their soul identity, who they were before they came to the planet. Yes, each and every one of our souls has a unique identity and is made up of the oversoul and the collection of incarnations, which is the collection of consciousnesses of all the different people, animals, aliens, planets, and other consciousnesses that the soul has had while being in a physical body or state. So, for many of us, we were the ancient Lyrans and Vegans. We just can't remember those past lifetimes because when we come to Earth, we underwent soul amnesia, and is part of the process of being a human on Earth to wake up and remember who we really are. On other planets, we are able to remember our other past life versions of ourselves because we do not undergo the same level of soul amnesia that we do here on planet Earth. Now, once again, back to the vegans. Vegans are also very tall and taller than the average human on Earth. Part of the process of coming to Earth and creating more humans was cutting the DNA strands in circles, so a lot of the DNA was lost in the current Earth humans. Therefore, it is rare that any Earth humans would be as tall as any of our human galactic friends. This may change in the future as the Earth continues to ascend and we step into the new Earth, but for now, Earth humans are stuck with being some of the shortest in the universe. So, both the Lyran and the vegan people were very peaceful and were able to easily acclimate and adapt to their environments. The reason that this was so easy for them is because they were a people filled with hope that could see the joy and light in humanity more easily than we could because a lot has happened since then. So remember, these ancient humans lived millions of years ago. So the Lyran and the Vegan civilizations were actually destroyed by the dark forces of this universe. They were forced to flee their home planets as they were destroyed, and as we are their descendants, we now know and live with what it feels like to be attacked, lose our home, have to flee, have to rebuild, and we live in a system here on Earth that is unfortunately controlled by darkness. Now, who or what do I mean by darkness? I like to call these dark beings the Malfoys. And remember, the Malfoys are a fictional group, right? And anything about these dark beings that I'm talking about, the darkness, the Malfoys, remember, these are all for entertainment purposes only. These are all fictional. So just remember that as we continue this video. So, most of us have read the popular Harry Potter series, and remember one of Harry's schoolmates was one of the Malfoys. And what was his first name? Does it correspond to a certain star system? Yes, our friends within the star system, the Malfoys, are the dark forces that destroyed the Lyran planets and caused the Lyrans to flee all over the universe, therefore creating many, almost all well-known galactic cultures, such as those as from Sirius and the Pleiades. So, the systems for the Lyrans and the Vegans were not as basic as our systems here on Earth. They were much more advanced than our systems here, and because of this, both Lyrans and Vegans did not have to spend as much of their time and energy on menial tasks like we do, such as paying bills, dealing with technical issues on a computer or iPhone, and their communication was much more swift than ours, as they could more easily communicate due to their direct connection to Source, God energy, through their crown chakra. The crown chakra is the chakra on the top of their head that we, as Earth humans, also have too. The crown chakra connects us directly to the divine, including our spirit guides, star family, and directly to Source God energy as well. This harmony that they had with their planet and the divine is something that we are currently working to achieve on this planet as we ascend and step into a higher dimensional version of New Earth. So it's interesting because the Lyrans actually did not even have any weapons until they were attacked by the darker forces, aka the fictional Malfoys. And what is even more interesting is that the Vegans did have a more advanced Starfleet than the Lyrans, even though they were designed in the Mother God consciousness, while the Lyrans were designed in the Father God consciousness. So, the Mother God humans were more technologically advanced than the Father God humans. I have to note that this kind of took me back because growing up on planet Earth during the 90s and the 2000s, I was constantly taught and it was culturally reinforced that tech, math, and science jobs, aka STEM jobs, were better suited for men. And we typically see more men in these types of jobs even now. So, something just didn't add up here to me. So, I actually channeled into this, and from the Akashic Records, I received the answer that this is because the Mother Goddess consciousness here on Earth is not allowed to fully express itself. It has been stifled due to generations of wealth that have put money, time, and resources towards diminishing women's rights and their involvement in society, their creative expression, and their ability to step into their full power. The male dominated society has claimed these things for themselves, said that this is the natural order of things, but it's actually not. So, what would happen if we allowed the Mother Goddess consciousness here on Earth to fully express itself? This next part is channeled as well. Earth would be rebalanced and typical power structures would no longer be able to thrive. See, power structures are not balanced here. They are extremely tipped in favor of the divine masculine, and that is why the deception, destruction, control, and power struggles are so frequent on the planet, because the powerful feminine has been suppressed. And this is why we cannot move forward. We cannot move forward as a collective until we rebalance the power between the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Interesting, right? So, to recap, we've gone into a lot of background on both the Lyrans and the Vegans, and even the feline humanoids. Now, there was also a fourth group of beings who were created by the co creators in the Lyra star system. They were the avian people, which you may have heard about being primarily from Sirius, but they were actually created on Lyra by a group of co creators who, similar to the feline co creators, came from another universe. They came here to help develop physical life in the Milky Way galaxy, starting in Lyra. These creators were actually bird like beings, so they created the avian people with some of the DNA in their bird like image. So, yes, this group are actually bird humanoids. Yes, we have another group of humanoids that are part animal, part human. Are you starting to see why we have so many movies and characters that have human like animals, such as Zootopia? That is our way of reconnecting to our past lives and knowing the truth through our movies and storytelling. Because universal law does say that we have to be given the truth of what is happening. And so, oftentimes, because of the strict galactic control around us, this information often comes to us in the form of movies, TV shows, books, comics, or sometimes even conspiracy theories. Again, my comments about conspiracy theories possibly having some grain of truth in them is only for entertainment purposes only, and it's completely fictional. So remember, it's just an idea, but it's not necessarily the truth. And lastly, in regards to the avian people, it's pretty cool because the birds here on Earth were actually a gift from these higher dimensional co creators to help regulate our electromagnetic atmosphere. So, why is it important for us Earth humans to know about the Lyrans and the Vegans, aka the first ever humans? Almost all humans today have DNA from either or both of the Lyran and Vegan humans. Typically, we'll see a combination of the feline, human, and avian genetics in each and every person on the planet Earth. And it's important to note that the Lyrans were also considered the ancestral line and the grandfather of all humans in our galaxy. So, Lyran genetics actually have developed into the Sirian, Pleiadian, Hyadian, Aldebaran, Andromedan, and Cygnus Alpha Procyon people. So, just like us Earth humans, many other humans out there on other planets and star systems are also descendants of the Lyrans. Now, the Vegans were also ancestors of many other civilizations, including Sirius A, Orion, Hyades, Mars, and of course, all of us humans here on Earth. So, what percent of the current human population on Earth has a Lyran and or a Vegan past life? Almost all starseeds here on planet Earth either had a past lifetime, an incarnation, or an interaction with Lyra. Now, you might be wondering, what is a starseed? So, it's not always defined the same, and for me personally, I don't consider everyone that has a galactic origin point or galactic past lives to be a starseed. That would be almost everyone on the planet, except for like 0.00001% of people, right, who are actually Earth souls, whose consciousness originated here on Earth, who the first time they were in a physical body, is on Earth. That's very, very rare. Most souls actually come from other planets. But what makes a starseed is a starseed is because if you are a starseed, you chose to come here to help bring the planet Earth into New Earth, to help raise the collective consciousness from 3D to 5D, and you are here on a mission, right? And so for me, my soul was hanging on the Pleiades, like doing their thing, like having all these other adventures and like still, helping humanity and helping, life as a whole, not just humanity, because when we get outside of Earth, it's not just humanity, it's all these other types of aliens and beings. But Earth was in trouble, and I felt a call to come here and help. And so here I am. And so I am a starseed. But in terms of all people on the planet, regardless of whether or not they are a starseed, a little over half of the world population had a physical incarnation on Lyra. So, roughly half of the people on Earth were incarnated on Lyra at one time or another in the star system's history. So, after both the Lyrans and the Vegans had their home planets destroyed by dark forces, many of them had to find home elsewhere, in other star systems, on other planets, and they became nomadic space explorers, searching for survival and a new home. This is why they are the ancestors of ET civilizations such as the Pleiades and Sirius, because they sought refuge there after their home planets were destroyed. And yes, this includes planet Earth. They came here seeking refuge as well. So, when I learned this story of galactic history in my galactic history and galactic Akashic Records courses, this story was eerily similar to me. It really reminded me of the biblical story of Adam and Eve in the Bible. So, as I mentioned before, I grew up in the Christian faith. And when I was younger and I went to Sunday school and Bible classes, I learned that the original humans were put into the Garden of Eden, right? So they were in the Garden of Eden. It was this beautiful land, so many resources, so easy, very similar to how all of the planets, those 14 planets that I mentioned in the Lyra star system, were the same, right? Because they had these wonderful conditions for life. They had these societies, right, where things were just easier and they were harmonious and they were beautiful. But then something happened, right? So in the biblical story of Adam and Eve, a serpent came in and kind of tricked and deceived these people, Adam and Eve, and so they had to leave this beautiful land, the beautiful Garden of Eden, and go out into the world, which was much more barren and was not, as beautiful, and life was not as easy. Well, this is what happened with the Lyrans, right? They too were deceived by these dark forces, the Malfoys, and they had to leave their land as well, right? But leave their planet and go out and find these other planets and rebuild. And it's interesting because whenever I was learning about the story of Adam and Eve and the Bible when I was in Sunday school, I had this question because Adam and Eve had two sons, Cain and Abel, right? And when they left the Garden of Eden, Cain and Abel both found wives, right? So I was like, there had to be other humans other than just Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. And it's interesting because the way this story is told too, that the Lyrans and the Vegans were the first ever humans, when they left, they actually found these other civilizations on other planets, and they either began like mating with them or creating new humans with new DNA of both, seeding the planet with their upgraded DNA. So for example, right, when we look at human genetics on planet Earth, we have Neanderthal genetics, right? Which some of us still have a little bit of that, but largely current humans today, we don't have a lot of Neanderthal genetics. Well, that's because this genetics that we have today is the ones from the Lyrans and the Vegans that they came. And so this genetic slowly kind of has replaced, right, the genetics that were originally the human genetics here. So I just want to throw that in there. I thought it was extremely interesting, the similarities between the story of the Lyrans and the Vegans and the biblical story of Adam and Eve. Many of you watching this video, you might be wondering, did I have a past life on the Lyra or Vega star system? And could I potentially be a Lyran or Vegan starseed? Well, I wanted to share a few traits with you of Lyran and Vegan starseeds. We go through these traits, I'll kind of share my personal experiences. Now, for me, I'm an Andromedan galaxy starseed, and so that means that my soul was originally from the Andromeda galaxy, came into the Milky Way galaxy through the Antares Stargate, and so a lot of my first incarnations were on Lyra, and I had many there. So I have a really strong affinity for the Lyran system, and in some ways do identify as a Lyran starseed, but more so as an Andromedan starseed. So as we go through, I'll kind of give my experiences of how these things relate to me, just so you can kind of see a human perspective with these things. If any of these resonate with you, it might mean that yes, you are a Lyran or Vegan starseed and or potentially had some past lives on either of these systems. So let's get into it. Might be a Lyran starseed if you enjoy physical labor or you consider yourself to be a really hard physical worker or just a hard worker in general. So for many Lyran starseeds, you also take great pleasure in food, beverages, maybe call yourself a foodie, or you love to go and like check out like the latest like cocktail bars, breweries, coffee places. Like for me, this is like a big one. I love to just go and explore and like take great pleasure in like eating certain things, drinking certain things. Also, I do have a particular galactic mission related to this because every time I go to a restaurant and get like food or drink, I'm actually, when I eat it, I'm uploading that up to databases above for the ETs who are studying humans and want to gather more data around it. So for me, this is a bit twofold, but if you just in general like that, it could be a sign that you're a Lyran starseed. So Lyran starseeds also love cats and have a really strong connection to them. Often they do prefer cats over dogs. So if they're asked, are they a cat person or a dog person? They are overwhelmingly a cat person. And this makes sense, right? Because of the Lyran genetics, we're so strongly feline that Lyran starseeds would prefer to be around like the genetics and the beings that remind them of home, right? So they'll often have cats instead of dogs. Another thing about Lyran starseeds, they can be very athletic in nature and really enjoy exercising in sports. But they also tend to need more sleep than the typical human being, so 9 hours or more. Another thing with Lyran starseeds that I find very interesting is that they often dream of big galactic wars and devastation of planets. So if you are someone who you are like in the middle of a war, or like you're scared and your planet is being destroyed, or someone is coming for your planet, like if you're having these dreams reoccurring throughout your life, like that is a big sign you could be a Lyran starseed. For me personally, I have a lot of dreams of the Orion War, which we'll get into in later episodes where we talk about Orion's history and Orion's starseeds. But these kind of reoccurring dreams of wartime could be a sign that you are a Lyran starseed. The thing about Lyran starseeds is that they really enjoy being in nature and living off the grid. I find this really interesting because I've been nomadic for about 6 months now, and I love going to places like tiny homes, like out in the woods, or like where you can live in like a curated trailer, like out in the woods or like the desert or things like that. And so it's really cool to be able to kind of have that experience of not being connected to society. And so this is one way that I feel like my inner Lyran galactic past lives kind of coming through. I'd also say that plant medicine and herbal arts are something that a lot of Lyran starseeds are really connected to, which for me is something that I've started to get into more so the past year, but the more I've done it, the more I've enjoyed it. Another really common Lyran starseed trait is if you tend to start a lot of projects but then get distracted easily, right? So there is that meme where it's like a heterosexual couple, it's a guy and a girl, and another girl walks by and the guy kind of turns to like look at her, and then the girlfriend gets mad at the guy for like looking at this other girl, right? So people have used this picture to make all kinds of memes about how you can get distracted, like when you're working on a project, another new project will distract you. Well, that is typical Lyran behavior. For Lyrans, when they're not in alignment with their higher self, their life purpose, they can suffer from autoimmune conditions such as chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, or Crohn's disease. Also, as a Lyran starseed, you may feel like you're an extremely old soul and you've been incarnating since the dawn of time. And that's because, compared to a lot of other souls, you have been. So, this definitely resonates with me. I often, have watched other people, and a lot of these other people would be older than me. And I'll be like, why is this difficult for them? Why can't they figure something out? Like, why are still they stuck in these patterns or these wounds or these thought processes, and they're 20 or 30 years older than me? Like, why haven't they healed through this, or why don't they understand this, or why haven't they learned these lessons? And it's because I have an extremely old soul, and I may be physically younger than them in this lifetime, but my soul age is, I've had many other incarnations, so therefore my soul age is much older, and I'm able to quickly see things, learn lessons, understand things, proactively work through situations in a different way that some of these younger souls, these souls who have less incarnations, have not. So this is a very typical Lyran starseed trait. So if you feel this, this could be a sign that you are in fact a Lyran starseed. A lot of Lyran starseeds also have dreams and visions of flying into different planes of existence to other planets. I have this a little bit, but for me, it's more images I received psychically about my time on Sirius as a bird bang, which, yes, we'll get into Sirius later. But I did want to mention to this just in case it does resonate with some of you Lyran Starseeds out there. Another great thing about Lyran Starseeds is that you really consider yourself a true visionary. You love to creatively produce your ideas into reality. That's a wonderful trait. You have a positive and uplifting personality that is cheerful yet compassionate. A lot of Lyran starseeds can also feel a deep connection with with birds, and birds seem to gravitate or follow them. And remember, there were also the bird beings on Lyra, so that would be these individuals whose soul had incarnations as those beings or spent a lot of time with them on Lyra. They may be able to connect in this lifetime to birds, so this could be people who love birds or they do like bird watching, like as a hobby. That could mean you have a connection to Lyra as well. Lyran Starseed trait is that you can see things from a very high level, but you can also see the most minute of details clearly as well. So this is a really great trait to have, right? Because a lot of people, it's either or. Like they may struggle to understand things at a really high level, get stuck in the details, or vice versa. Maybe they're not paying attention to the details, but they're really just focusing on the big picture vision, right? Which there are people who are needed that are all different types of people, right? In some roles, you need to focus on the vision, while some you need to focus on the details. But the cool thing about the Lyran Starseeds is that they can do both. And I do resonate with this because I worked for 10 plus years as a CPA and an auditor. And so a lot of times I really did have to understand different levels of a business function. So, for example, I would have to go and talk to like an executive or a head of a department or a head of a team and really understand things from the higher levels. But then I would also have to go and talk to someone who's actually doing the work at the lower levels, the processing of the transactions, things like that, and be able to dig into the details as well. Last Lyran Starseed trait I would like to share today is that for many of us, our greatest asset, or alternatively, our greatest challenge, is speaking our mind and owning our truth. And for me, this was an absolutely huge one. I had to learn to speak up. I did not always want to speak up, and oftentimes I didn't. So actually, as I mentioned earlier, I was an auditor for 10 plus years, and this is where I actually learned to speak up in a lot of situations I was in. I was able to learn, even though sometimes it is scary or difficult to exercise your voice, the importance of doing so. And that is something that I continue to do here in my career as an Akashic channel and just in different areas of my life as well. So if that type of journey has been something you've been experiencing and this resonates with you, it is a very big sign that you too could be a Lyran starseed, or like I do, really identify with the Lyran starseed experience because of all of the Lyran past lives that you had on that planet and that star system. So I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and most importantly, I hope you've learned a lot. Please make sure to hit subscribe and also like this video. If you think you might be a Lyran or a vegan starseed, you can book a soul origin and life purpose reading with me to find out. I've left the link below in the video notes, so just click that. Happy to learn more about you, meet with you, and let you know, are you a Lyran or a vegan starseed? So that's it for now, but I will see you soon.